What's up, guys? Welcome to your 121st Android tutorial for the new Boston. And I've decided to do a few more tutorials on the SQLite database because I've gotten so many requests on my channel, so I thought I should at least elaborate a little bit more within this series. And what we're going to do is we're going to allow the user to throw in an edit or throw in a number, which is going to be our row ID. Then we can get some information, and it's just going to fill in these edit text up here with the information that it returns. We're going to also going to be allowed to edit that row information and change our entries into the database, and also we can delete that whole row if we want. So let's get into it. Again, you guys just need to set up an edit text. What I did is go into the text fields and throw this one that says number over there. That way when they select this edit text, the number keypad will come up for them instead of, you know, the alphabetical keyboard. And then what we're going to do is, you know, you guys can set up your references for the most part, whatever you guys, you know, by this point you should know how to set up your own references, and it won't really matter as long as you have the reference bridges over in Java set up properly. So what I did is I set up both those buttons, those three buttons, and our new edit text so our whole class can use them. And then I created basically my variable names was SQL row, which is our edit text, which is going to give us the row number. SQL modify, which is our button that's going to, you know, modify that entry. SQL get information. Again, that's going to just return the information from our row that we insert. SQL delete, that's what I named for my delete button. And then I just set all on-click listeners and set up, you know, 3 new cases within our switch in case for our on-click listener. So let's get into it. The first thing that we need to do is we're going to kind of program our get information. So we got to kind of think about what we want, again, our application to do. The first thing that we want to do is we want to refer to our SQL row edit text. That's the new one that we set up, and we're just going to say get text dot toString, and we're going to set up a string variable to equal that. So we're just going to call this our string or S, something like that. And now we have a string that's going to return whatever is in our edit text. Now what we want to do is we want to convert that string into like an int or, you know, a long, let's say. Let's do a long, and we'll call this long L. So what we're going to do now is convert our string into a long type variable. And we do that by parsing. And so what we're going to do is we're going to refer to the long class dot parse long, and as you can see, it takes a string within its parameters, and we're going to give that string reference the S. So again, this L variable is just basically converting whatever was in our edit text into a long type variable. Now what we want to do is, again, we're just going to set up a hot or not variable, hot or not. I'm going to set this equal to, again, just a new hot or not instance where we pass in the context of this class. And then what we're going to do is we're going to open our hot or not so we can write to it, and then we're going to say, like, we're going to get some information back, a name and that hotness of the row. So what we want to do is we want to say something like string returned name equals, and then we can say our HON, our hot or not object, dot get name. And we're going to create this method, and we're going to pass in our long. So again, we're going to create this method called get name, where it takes a long within its parameters. So again, our long is going to be which row the person typed into the edit text. Then that it's going to send that off to this method called get name that we're going to set up. So that's what that's going to do. And then we're also going to set up another string for our returned hotness. Pretty much the same concept there. So get hotness, we can call it. and again we want to pass in which row we're looking at. So there we go. Now we're just going to close our hot or not type variable. And then now we have our returned name and our returned hotness. So what we're going to do is just set our edit text up to equal that returned name and that returned hotness. So again, our edit text were called SQL name dot set text, and we're going to set it to our returned name. And then we're going to set our hotness edit text to our returned hotness. So there we go. We pretty much have everything set up. Now we just need to create these methods, which we'll do in the next tutorial. But just to get started, we're going to hover over and say create method for both of these. So go back into this class and we're going to create this method as well. So I'll see you guys in the next tutorial where we'll kind of talk about returning some information. So I'll see you guys then. Have a good one. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 122nd Android tutorial for the new Boston. And again, just a quick review here. What we've done in the last tutorial, we basically created a long that is going to be our row ID, and we're going to pass that long into these methods called getName and getHotness, and that's going to return some kind of a string for us, which we're going to set to our return name, and we're just going to set our edit text to whatever that string is being returned. So now let's go into our hot or not Java class, and what we're going to do is we're basically going to set up both these methods, and they're pretty much going to be the same because again we're getting the row ID and we're just going to return a string of some sort. So again, it's pretty simple. For the most part, this is review. Again, we need a cursor that's going to read some data for us, so let's set that up. Cursor C equals our database again. We're going to query it, and again we need to enter a table name, which is going to be our table name, and we're also going to set up our columns name, which we're just going to copy from this get data up here. It's going to be pretty much the same, or it is going to be the same. And again, that's what our columns is going to be for our second parameter, just our string array that has all of our columns in our database. And this time we're actually going to do something a little different. What we're going to do is we're going to, for the selection here, we're going to set up basically our long, or a row ID that we're getting passed in. So what we're going to do is we're going to say key underscore row ID, and then we're going to say plus equals in quotations, and then plus our L that we're getting passed in. And then everything else is going to be set to null. Alright, so basically the only thing that's different, again, is for a third parameter, instead of having this set to null, what we're doing is we're getting our row ID and we're setting that equal to whatever is being passed in. Again, what's being passed in is that whatever is in that edit text for a row ID. Now what we want to do is we want to check if the cursor is set to null, so we're just going to say if cursor is not set to null, again that's expression mark, we're going to basically return the data. So what we're going to do is we're going to say we have to first set our cursor to move to first. You might be thinking that's the first row in our database, but actually again, since we're passing in which row our cursor is looking for, it's going to move to this row that we're passing in. And we have to call that method for this for us to look through it, and then all we're going to do is set up a string called hotness, or actually name. We're going to set this string equal to our cursor dot get string, and we're going to put 1 here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to return our name. So again, just to quickly talk through everything that we've done, because pretty much our get hotness is going to be the same thing for the most part. Again, we set up our columns and we set up our cursor, which is going to look for the row that's being passed in, and then as long as our cursor is not null, we're going to move to that row for the most part, and we're going to get the string data of our first column. Now quickly, just to go back, because this is a little bit new, I'm just going to scroll up to where we said get data before, because this is kind of the same concept. We had, something like this instead of a number, but basically what we're doing is we have three columns again: our column row, column name, and column hotness. And last time we set up these ints. But basically what's happening is our row was our first column, so that's at position 0. Our name is our second column, that's position 1, and this is position 2. So if we're returning our name, we can also just say, if we know which column it is, we can just say position 1, which will be our second column, because again, everything in programming for the most part starts at 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. So this will be our name column, and then we're going to return our name. And then if our cursor is set to null, it's just going to return a null. So it's only going to return our name if this works here. So that's kind of the setup. We're just going to copy this and paste it within or actually copy right here and paste it within our hotness. And all we're going to change is basically which cursor we're getting, because again, our hotness is in our third column, which is 0, 1, 2. So we're going to look for, the hotness column, and it's going to get hotness, something like that, and it's going to return that hotness. So now let's just run our application and make sure everything works. Again, for the most part, this section, we're just getting the name and stuff. It's kind of review because we've done it before, but again, I just kind of wanted to talk over it because I'm not sure if I specified it clearly. So again, let's just view our database. We have two entries. So let's say we want the second entry. We're going to put 2 here, and then we're going to say get information. As you can see, it pulls up Samantha and 7, which is again our second entry. And we can also do 1 get information, pulls up this. Now, just a note, if we put like 5, it's going to give us an error and it's going to crash our program. So hopefully the person enters the right number. But I'll catch you guys in the next tutorial. Have a good one. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 123rd Android tutorial for the new Boston. What we're going to do in this tutorial, we're basically going to learn about this modify or set up our modify button. Again, what this is going to do is if we were too drunk and we put in someone's information, whether we misspelled their name or we gave them a higher attractiveness rating than they deserve, we're going to allow a button that we can modify that entry. So what we're going to need is we're going to need both the edit text for the name and the edit text for the hotness ranking, and also our row ID. So let's just copy and paste again first our row, which converts into a long from our get information, and let's just change this to string row and long row, something like that, and we're going to convert the string row. So there we go, we have a new long. And again, we can just copy and paste our string name and hotness from our update button, so we're just going to copy that and paste it below as well, and just maybe change the name a bit. Don't have to, but hotness and all that good stuff. So again, that's just going to convert our string name and or edit text into a string for both the name and the hotness, and we're also going to see what row the person wants to update or modify. And then we just again need to create a hot or not class or object. We're going to call it ex, I don't know, new hot or not, and pass in the context this, and then just ex open, and ex close, and then this is the method that we're going to create. So we're going to say ex.update entry, something like that, and we want to pass in all of our information for the most part. So we're going to pass in which row we're working with, the long, and then we're going to pass in the name and the hotness. So we're just going to say L row for the first parameter. which is going to be a long m name and m hotness. And so again, we have to create this method within our hot or not class. So we just hover over here and say create a method called update entry that takes a long, a string, and a string. So we're going to click that, and here we go. We have our update method, update entry, and all the information that we're passing in from the previous class. What we want to do is we want to set up a content values. Content values, and we're going to call this CV update, something like that. And we're going to set this equal to new content values. And then we just have to say CV update dot put, and again we just refer to our key name, which we're going to say key underscore name, and value we want. So we want the value that's being passed in. So there we go. We set that up. Oops, except it's m name. And again, we just need this CV update for our attractiveness or hotness. So again, we're just going to say key hotness and what's being passed in, which is m hotness. And then we just have to update our database. So again, we're going to refer to our database variable, and we've used the method, query, we've used the method insert, but now we're going to use the method called update. So again, we just have to put in our table, which is going to be our database table, our values, which is our content values here that we just updated. The where clause is going to be kind of similar to what we did in the last tutorial, where we got the information of the specific row. So again, we're just going to say row, or we're going to say key underscore row ID plus, in quotations again, equals, and then whatever is being passed in, which we called L row. L row, like that. And then the fourth parameter we're going to set to null. And again, I'm sorry, we have to put a plus here as well. So now that's just going to update our database according to whatever, again, we passed in to our update entry. So that's going to update our database, and that's pretty much it for this tutorial, guys. And I'll catch you in the next one. Have a good one. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 124th Android tutorial, where we're going to learn how to delete an entry. So what I want you guys to do is go into the SQLite example, and we're going to go into our delete button. Again, we're just going to copy which row we want to delete. So we're going to copy that string row, which is going to be from our edit text row, and then also our converting it into a long. Let's just copy that and paste it there. And then what we're going to do, again, we're just going to create a new hot or not object. So copy that, paste that. Maybe change these variable names to 1, 1, 1, who knows, something like that. Alright, so then we just have our ex.open, nothing new, ex.delete entry, and we're going to delete the entry according to which row we want to delete. So we're going to say L row 1, and then ex1.close. Alright, so just change all those to ex1 for the most part, and then we just have to, create this method within our hot or not class. So now we're going to switch over to hot or not class, where this method has been created, and all we're going to do is delete our entry now. So what we're going to do is just say our database, and again, we've learned about update, entry, and all that good stuff. This time we're going to learn about the delete method. So again, now it's just going to be our table name, which ID we want to pass, or which row ID we want to have. So again, we're just going to say row ID equals or plus equals plus again, and then whatever we're passing in. So L row 1. And then the third parameter set to null. So again, it's pretty much the same layout, same concepts, nothing new. We just learned about this delete method that we can use. So let's run our application, And actually, since we probably have some time, since that was pretty quick, what I want to show you guys again, we set up something here to kind of proof check everything. So what we're going to do is we're just going to copy this catch clause for update here and paste it for each one of our get information. For example, we're going to paste that there, and we're going to add a try bracket. And then I'll just format it so you guys can see what's going on here. So again, we just added a try and a catch exception where we're going to print the error for the most part, and we're going to delete our Boolean value that we copied. And we're also going to do that for our modify, and again we have to add the try and delete our Boolean value, format, and lastly for our deleting method we're going to add the try and the catch exception, and format, delete, and then also we need to throw an exception that we want to catch. So we're going to switch back over to the hot or not class, just scroll up to basically when we use our open method that says throw exception. We're going to copy that, and then we're going to paste that for our get hotness, get name, and update entry, and also our delete. So that way we can kind of we can catch some of those exceptions, which I'll show you guys here when we run our program. I know I kind of ran through that quickly, but hopefully that won't be a problem. Hopefully you guys understand what that try and catch does, where I pasted it, I should say. So now let's go down. We're going to go to our SQLite example, and again we're going to view our database. We have two entries, Travis and Samantha, and first let's try to get an entry of row 5, just get some information. And this is what we just created, that dialog that says dang it, and it says it's out of the bounds because we don't have a fifth entry. And so that's kind of what we did there. So now let's kind of create some more entries. We're going to say Jenny, she's 9, update. And now let's view it. We're going to now edit Samantha. So we're going to pull our information first. So we're going to hit 2 and then say get info. We have Samantha here. Now we can edit it. We want to change her to like a 4, and then we're going to say edit entry. And now let's view our entry. As you can see, Samantha's changed to 4. Now let's delete Samantha. So we're just going to hit delete, which is going to again pull this ID and delete that entry. So now if we go to our view database, Samantha is no longer there. And as you can see, you might have seen before, I'm just going to update our database. So it's going to add a few more Samantha entries. So 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to view our database. And as you can see, even with Jenny, I had some more entries before and I deleted them, but the next time you add an entry, it's going to skip over that entry, and our row ID is still going to be going up from that point. So that's something you guys might want to consider. And that's pretty much it for the SQLite database stuff, and we're going to get into something else in the next tutorial. Not quite sure yet what, but alright, have a good one, guys. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 125th Android tutorial for the new Boston. What we're going to do in this tutorial, we're going to learn about the accelerometer, or at least get our class set up for the most part. So what we want to do is we want to create a new class called Accelerate, and what we're going to do is we're going to extend the activity as always, and we're also going to implement something called the Sensor Event Listener, and that's going to be basically our sensor of our accelerometer. So let's go into our activity, import that, and our sensor, we got to import that, and also add the unimplemented methods. So as you can see, on accuracy change and on sensor change are two methods that we implement from the sensor event listener. We're also going to set up just our our onCreate method, Hit OK. So we got that stuff set up. We also want, basically where this accelerometer class is going to be drawing to the screen, drawing a ball to the screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up our graphics surface class, and within here, if you guys remember, we set up a inner class called myBringBackSurface, which extends the surface view and the runnable. So what we're going to do, we're just going to copy this whole class, myBringBackSurface, copy that, and then we're going to go into our Accelerate class and paste it there. So we got some errors. We're actually just going to delete kind of everything within our canvas where we draw to it. And we are good to start with the tutorial. Probably that's going to be it for this tutorial, just getting everything for the most part set up. And so once we copy that, all we're going to do is go into our onCreate method, and we're going to say set content view to a new new myBringBackSurface. BringBackSurface, and we're going to pass in the context of this. Alright, so now we have our class set up. Pretty much everything is good to go, and probably going to end the tutorial here, just getting everything again set up. So I'll catch you guys later, and have a good one. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 126th Android tutorial for the new Boston. What we're going to do in this tutorial, I'm basically going to talk about these two classes, or these two methods, and also set up our accelerometer. So we have two methods that get implemented when we implement the sensor event listener. The onAccuracyChanged and also the onSensorChanged. Now, for example, we're just going to have our ball move around on the screen when our sensor changes. So we're basically going to only work with this onSensorChanged. This gets called when we have a new sensor event. When our accelerometer changes directions or whatever, it's going to call this method. This accuracy change, that's just going to kind of test the accuracy of the changed event for the most part. We aren't really going to deal with that, like I said. But now what we need to do is we need to set up our Sensor Manager. Basically, we're going to check if the device has a accelerometer. And as of now, I believe most of the Android phones have the accelerometer, but just to make sure, we're going to check for it. And how we do that is we do Sensor Manager within our onCreate method, Sensor Manager, and we're just going to call this Sensor Manager SM, and we're going to set equal to, after we import, we're going to set it equal to Sensor Manager, and then we're going to say get the system service, which we've used before. Whoa, can't spell. And then we're going to say the context dot, and we have an option called Sensor Service. Now that we have our manager set up, we're going to refer to the manager to basically check if the accelerometer exists. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say sm.getSensorList. As you can see, you use this method to get a list of available sensors of a certain type. So we're going to click that, and then we're going to refer to the sensor class to tell it what kind of sensor we're looking for. So we say dot, and then we have these options, type accelerometer, light, pressure, temperature, all different types of sensors that might be available. So we're going to hit that, and then after that we're going to say dot size. When we use this size method, if this statement is equal to 0, that means there's no sensor available. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an if statement, and then we're going to say as long as this is not equal to 0, we're going to do whatever within these brackets. And then we just have to finish off our if statement like that. So make sure all our brackets are set in there. Alright, just formatted it. So now basically we've checked from our system manager if the accelerometer exists, and if it does, what we're going to do is we're going to set up a sensor. So we set up our sensor, and we're going to call this sensor like S, something like that. What we're going to set this equal to is refer to our manager that we set up. So sm dot, again, get sensor list, and within the type, again, we're just going to say sensor dot type accelerometer again, and this time instead of saying the size, we're just going to say get. And as you can see, it takes an int location, so we're just going to say 0 here, and that's fine. Kind of setting up our initial spot. So now we're going to kind of register our sensor and our manager and all that stuff. So we're going to refer to our sensor manager, and then we're just going to say register listener, and we're going to choose this this second option here, where we take a sensor event listener, a sensor, and an int for the rate. So for our listener, what we're going to do is we're going to set this equal to our the context of this, and for our sensor, we're going to refer to the sensor we just set up as S, and for our rate, we can refer to our sensor manager or sensor manager class, and we can pull different rates that is going to update our sensor, because sometimes we don't want to update as fast as possible, and you know, they have different rates of how quickly your sensor is going to try and update or process the information. So if you have an application you want to update as fast as you can choose like this fastest, which you probably don't need. We're just going to choose sensor delay normal, you know, because this application is going to be somewhat normal, and then we're just going to hit finish, and we are pretty much done with this tutorial, guys. And also, this, just to let you guys know, this can be this is a Boolean value type statement, so you can set up like a checking whether this returns true or false if you want. But there we go, we're pretty much done with this tutorial, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Have a good one. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 127th Android tutorial for the new Boston. And what we're going to do in this tutorial, we're basically going to set up something to do within this method called OnSensorChanged. But before we do that, let's set up some variables that we're going to use, and they're going to be float types. So we're going to say float x, float y, and float sensor x and sensor y. And then we're also going to set up a bitmap, because again, we're going to draw that ball to the screen, so we're going to say bitmap ball. And then within our onCreate method here, we're going to set up our ball reference real quickly. Again, just bitmap factory dot decode resources, or resource, and then get resources, and also whichever ID that we want. So we're going to say r.drawable dot green ball, and we have our bitmap set up. We also might want to set up all of our float values. So we're going to say x equals y equals sensor x equals sensor y. And basically what's going to happen now, actually those aren't set equal to anything, so we're going to set that equal to 0. And now anytime our sensor changes, it's going to call this OnSensorChanged method. So what we can do is we can set up our, our float values for our sensor every time that our sensor is called. So what we can do is say sensor x, and I believe this was R0, something like that. I just changed it to E because it's a little bit easier to work with. Just sensor event is being passed in, so we get an event, and we can refer to that event and get the value. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to say e.values, and it returns a float. And let's just scroll over here to the description. And if we refer to the value 0, that's going to give us pretty much the x-axis, the direction of the x-axis, and the y is going to give us the direction of the y-axis, and I'm sorry, the 1 is going to give us the direction of the y-axis, and the 2 is going to give us the direction of the z-axis. So for our sensor x, what we want to do is we just want to say the values of 1, or I'm sorry, of 0, and that will return basically the information from our sensor event for the x direction, or the x-axis. And then again, we're just going to say sensor y is equal to e.values, and now we're looking for the y direction, which is 1, and we don't really care about the z direction for our example. And also another thing that we can do is we can even delay this even longer, because even though we set it equal to be a normal delay sensor, we can even delay it a little bit longer by just adding a thread sleep method to like 1000, or not 1000, like 16. 16 is about 60 frames per second, and then we're just going to add a try and a catch around this sleep method here. So that will kind of save us some processing speed, so it's not checking every time our sensor even slightly moves. But you know, it's good enough. For example, 60 times per second to update basically our X and Y values of our sensor. That's pretty good. So there we go, guys. That's pretty much it for this tutorial. Just kind of learned about anytime a sensor changes, it's going to call this method. We're going to redefine this sensor X and sensor Y. So I'll catch you guys in the next tutorial. Have a good one. Alright, what's up, guys? Welcome to your 128th Android tutorial for the new Boston. What we're going to do in this tutorial, we're basically going to check if our sensor is updating, for getting these values, and all that good stuff. So what we're going to do, we're going to scroll up to our, my bring back class here, and in the run method, this is where we created our canvas, and we created the background of the canvas. And what we're going to do is just draw our ball to the screen, or to our canvas, I should say, when it's unlocked. So again, this is kind of a quick review of drawing stuff. So again, we're just going to say canvas, draw bitmap, and then we have our parameters. What we're going to draw is our ball that we set up, and the left value, we're going to start everything in the center of the screen. So what we can do is we can say float center X is equal to, again, our canvas dot get width divided by 2, and we can just copy this and just change it for a Y value and get the height divided by 2. That's going to give us our center and height. Now what we're going to do is we're going to say center X here. So we're going to say here is center X, which is that float we just set up, and maybe like plus our sensor X. And then what we're going to do for our, our height, we're going to just say center Y plus sensor X, or I'm sorry, sensor Y. And for our paint, we're just going to say null. So that's basically going to somewhat paint our bitmap in the center of the screen. Again, it's not going to be the center of the actual bitmap itself, so it's going to be a little bit off. But as you can see, we have our sensor X and our sensor Y added to that. But basically the problem is this sensor is only, it varies from like 0 to I believe 40 is the amount of force that you can apply to it. So we're going to just kind of amplify the amount of pixels that's going to be able to move by, like, let's say 250, something like that, for both of our sensor Y and our sensor X. So 250, and we're pretty much done with this tutorial. Just one other quick thing is, since we registered our listener, we want to maybe create an onPause method and unregister it so it's not always playing. So I'm just going to go to source override and then just onPause method here, and we're going to unregister it right here. But again, we have to allow all of our other classes to access a sensor manager. So I'm just going to cut that and put SM here, and then scroll up to the top of our class and paste it there. So now we can refer to that SM within our pause method. So we're just going to say unregister listener, and we're going to say this for the context, or for the listener that we're unregistering. I realized that after I tried testing it, it wasn't working, and that's because I realized basically our surface view, or let me back up. What I did is I created a new bringback surface called our surface view again, because again my bringback surface won't run until we have this, because everything is set to false to start with, until it hits the resume method. So what I did is, and that's when it's going to create our new thread that we're going to draw to. So what I did is created a my bringback surface called our surface, and then within our onCreate method, which I moved down to the bottom, or set content view, I moved down to the bottom, I just created our surface to equal new bring back this, and then I just called the resume method, which would set all of our variables to be true and create that new thread. So if you guys are following along, you want to make sure you want to do that, and then we set our content view after we called this resume method, and I'll show you guys what it looks like. Oh, and also you guys want to probably go up to this draw bitmap, and instead of saying 250, you probably just want to do 20. So alright, I'll see you guys in a second. Alright, let me try and get more in focus in this one. Whoa. Alright, there we go. So now let's go down to our Accelerate class. I just want to quickly show you some of the problems, or one of the problems, which you guys can probably figure out how to solve yourself. But as you can see, as I tilt the ball back, it goes up the screen, and as I tilt back, it goes down the screen. Tilt to the right, or to the left, it goes to the right of the screen, and vice versa. So I mean, it's not that great, but at least you guys can see a little bit of the accelerometer. And one of the problems that we're going to have is if we tilt it all the way over, it's going to try and readjust our screen, and it's not going to like that and force close our program. So you can either set the screen orientation to be fixed, or whatever you guys want to do to solve that problem, but I'm not going to probably show a tutorial on it because I bet you guys can figure it out yourself. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a good. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 129th Android tutorial for the new Boston. What we're going to do is we're going to get into Google Maps. So I want you guys to go to this website, code.google.com/add-ons/Google-APIs. And this is basically what we're going to follow to set up Google Maps. We're going to need to get a fingerprint for the most part to develop for Google Maps, and we're going to walk through first the debug key that we're going to use, and then when we finalize our project and put it on the market, we're going to have to reestablish that fingerprint mark. But you guys want to go to this website, and this will get us going here. So let's go into our project, or into Eclipse here, and just start a Google Maps project. We can't just add the API or the jar into our project, which I tried doing. I made a tutorial doing it that way, but it didn't actually end up working. So we're going to actually create a new project just for Google Maps, and we're going to go to right click, right click in that free space, go to Android project, and then type in whatever you guys want, maps, and we're going to say the new Boston, or whatever you guys want to label this. Again, if you don't have to follow along for our package name, but we're just going to call this Google Maps, and we're going to still work with the 8 API level, and we need to select this Google APIs here, again for level 8. Otherwise we aren't going to be able to use the methods for Google Maps. And as you can see here, our first activity, it's called Maps activity, which we're actually going to change. We're just going to say main, something like that. But yeah, you can click that and it'll get a project set up. And again, if you guys didn't have the Google API option, what you're going to want to do is go again to our Window tab, Android SDK AVD Manager, and we're going to select we're going to select available packages, and we're going to select third-party add-ons right here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to select Google, and here's the Google API where we can use Google Maps and all the powerful methods that comes along with Google Maps. So you're going to select one of those and install it. And then also what we're going to need is we're going to need an emulator that's going to be able to run Google Maps. I have one set up there already, but once you install again that I'll have it running. But once you install that Google API package, what you're going to do is you're going to go into your emulator or virtual devices, and we're going to create a new one called Google Maps Emulator, something like that. We're going to select our target, again the target of Google APIs and level 8. So you're going to select that, and again, just if you want to have an SD card, throw that in there. Create AVD, and This is where we're going to run our Google Map applications off of this emulator because it won't work on this one. Let's get into setting up a project. And also, just to let you guys know, in the next tutorial you won't see this maps package because, like I said, I already created some tutorials, but the way I created them didn't actually work. So the next tutorial is still going to be the same concept, so just keep that in mind. If you don't see this maps, we're still going to be working with this maps project, but you might not see it in the next tutorial. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into the Android manifest of our maps project, and we need to set up a permission to use the internet. So we're going to go down to our permissions, and we're going to say add uses permission, and then select the choice for the internet, which is Android permission internet. And there we go. We're going to save our project. The last thing we have to do is we have to go into the manifest, and we have to refer to this new jar for the most part, so we can use the Google Maps API. So again, if you guys get lost, you can just go to this website, and it'll kind of show you guys how to set up everything. If you like reading how to learn stuff, you can just follow this to do the install, but if you guys like watching, just follow this series here. So once you guys go to this website, you can click on like the obtaining maps or whatever, one of these options here, and then scroll down to the bottom, and as you can see, we need to use this code in our manifest. So we're going to copy this, or if you guys want to type it out, you can as well. But where we need to add this is right below our application bracket in our manifest. Not within an activity, but right below the application, and we're just going to hit Control V to paste it, and this is the code you guys need. Uses library Android name com.google.android.maps. And now we can start developing for a Google Maps activity, which we're going to get into in a few tutorials. Again, the next tutorial, you're just going to obtain the fingerprint that we're going to need, and I'll catch you guys then. Have a good one. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 130th Android tutorial. What we're going to do is we're going to obtain an API key for Google Maps. We need to obtain one of these every time we develop an application with Google Maps in it. So you guys want to go to this website, code.google.com/android/add-ons/mapkey.html, and that's going to basically help us to walk through setting up a Google Maps project. And over here you can get the overview. We've kind of done everything so far. All we need to do now is get the get the Maps API key. So we're going to click that, and I thought it would have taken us to where we were. Okay, yeah, and then it brings us here, and then we can click obtaining Maps API key, and they kind of walk you through everything. First, we're just going to get a debugging key so you guys can follow along easier. But when we sign our application, we're going to have to get a specific fingerprint for our application for it to work on, on the marketplace. But as for now, we're just going to work with the debugging one. And the first thing that we have to do is we have to find basically where this debug key store is located. And also, you guys want to open up your command prompt. On Windows, you just hit the start button and then type CMD into the search and hit enter, and then run your command prompt. On Mac, you guys want to go to your terminal, which I believe is your applications, and then your utilities, and then your terminal. So open that up. Now what we need to do again is we need to find this resource. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into Eclipse, and for Windows you want to go to the Windows tab. For Mac you want to go to your Eclipse tab and then click Preferences. Once we open up our preferences, we're going to go to the Android folder and then to the build path. And as you can see, here's where my path is located. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this debug key store path that we're going to use later when we work with command prompt or the terminal. So just make sure you have that copied. And there we go. And now what we're going to do is we're going to open up our command prompt, and we're going to basically type what is right here. So pretty simple. So what you guys want to type out is key tool dash list dash alias Android debug key dash key store. Whoa. And then we paste our file path, which you guys just copied. So we have this key store here, and then we just say dash store pass, and the password is Android, which they have set up, and then also our key pass is Android as well. And we hit enter, and it gives us this unique fingerprint. So we're going to copy this, just control copy, and then what we need to do is we need to register that fingerprint. We need to go to the sign up page here, and then we have to print our fingerprint, and you guys will probably have to have a Google account, a Gmail account or something. So we just paste that there. Yeah, you can read this, it's all that good stuff, and hit generate API key, and here we go. Here is your unique key and all this other good stuff that we can reference later. So just make sure you save that and then watch the next tutorial where we'll actually use this and you guys understand what's going on here. So thanks again for watching, guys, and hope it wasn't too confusing. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Peace.